Commander Alexis Reeves could not believe what she was seeing. The large screen in front of her showed only static, where moments before there had been the face of Ambassador Loran, the leader of the Centauri Coalition. Alexis stood frozen on the observation deck of Lunar Station Alpha, her dark hair pulled back tightly, her blue uniform crisp despite the long hours of her shift. "Try to get them back," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing dread in her stomach. Lieutenant Paul Clark worked quickly at his station, his fingers moving across the control panel with practiced ease. His face had gone pale. "Commander, I can't re-establish contact. All channels to Centauri Prime are dead." Alexis moved closer to the main viewport. From here, 240,000 miles from Earth, she could see the vast blackness of space stretching out before her. Somewhere out there, humanity's oldest and most trusted allies were in trouble. "Show me the last transmission again," she said. The screen flickered, and Ambassador Loran's gray face appeared. The Centauri looked different from humans with their silver skin and large almond-shaped eyes, but their expressions of fear were all too familiar. "Earth Station, we are under attack. The Arcturus Dominion has broken through our outer defenses. They've brought planet killers. You must warn—" The transmission cut to static again. "That was 43 minutes ago," Paul said quietly. "Given the distance, whatever happened, it's already over," Alexis finished for him. She closed her eyes briefly. The Centauri had been Earth's first contact with alien life nearly 30 years ago. They had welcomed humans into the galactic community, shared technology, established trade. They had become Earth's shield against the more aggressive species in their sector of the galaxy. And now, they might all be dead. The door to the observation deck slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Gregory Howard walked in, his posture rigid, his gray-haired head held high. At 62, he had seen humanity's first tentative steps into the wider galaxy. The lines around his eyes seemed deeper today. "Commander Reeves, Lieutenant Clark." His voice was grave. "We've received confirmation from our long-range scouts. Centauri Prime has been destroyed. The entire planet is gone." Paul made a choking sound. "The whole planet. But there were 3 billion sentient beings." "Gone," Howard said. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with a cold fire. The Arcturus Dominion used antimatter weapons to break apart the planetary core. Where Centauri Prime once orbited, there is now only an expanding field of debris. Alexis felt her hands clench into fists. "Any survivors?" "Some colony outposts. Might have escaped notice, we don't know yet." Howard moved to the viewport standing beside her. "The Security Council has called an emergency session. All military personnel are on high alert." "The Dominion will come for us next," Paul said, voicing what they all knew. "Without the Centauri technological edge protecting us." "The Dominion believes we are weak," Howard said. "They think we're technologically inferior and unwilling to engage in all-out war. They've made a serious error in judgment." Alexis turned from the viewport to look at the Admiral. "Sir, what exactly does that mean?" For a moment, Howard was silent, looking out at the stars. Then he turned to face them both. "It means we're activating the Nemesis protocol. Project Harbinger is being brought online." The room fell silent. Few people knew about Project Harbinger, but those in high command positions had heard whispers. For 15 years, Earth had poured resources into a secret military project, hidden from their allies and enemies alike. A contingency plan that even most of Earth's military leaders hoped would never be needed. "Is it ready?" Alexis asked finally. "It has to be," Howard replied. "I've been authorized to assemble a briefing team. Commander Reeves, you're being reassigned effective immediately. You'll accompany me to Facility Deep Black." Paul looked between them, confusion clear on his face. "What's Project Harbinger?" Howard's expression remained carefully neutral. The Centauri believed that peace comes through cultural exchange and mutual economic benefit, and they were right, until they met an enemy that only understands dominance. Earth has always known that true peace requires both the open hand and the closed fist. He looked back out at the stars, his voice dropping lower. They've awakened something they don't understand. Earth doesn't build warships to fight fair battles. We build them to end wars. 6 hours later, Alexis found herself on an unmarked shuttle, descending toward a massive asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Admiral Howard sat across from her, reviewing data on a secure tablet. "What we're about to show you has been classified at the highest level," he said without looking up. "Fewer than 200 people know of its existence. The Centauri were never informed." "We kept secrets from our allies?" Alexis asked, surprised. Howard finally looked up at her. "The Centauri were a peaceful species at heart. They believed weapons should be used only for defense. They wouldn't have understood why we built the Retribution." The shuttle docked with barely a sound, connecting to an airlock embedded in the asteroid's surface. As they moved through a series of security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last, Alexis noticed that none of the personnel wore standard Earthfleet uniforms. Instead, they wore simple gray jumpsuits with no insignia or rank markers. Finally, they emerged onto an observation platform overlooking an enormous cavern carved into the heart of the asteroid. Alexis felt her breath catch in her throat. Below them floated a ship unlike any she had ever seen. Where Earth vessels were typically built with bright hulls and clear markings, this ship was a shadow, a vessel that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. Its hull had an odd shifting quality that made it difficult for her eyes to focus on any one section. "The USS Retribution," Howard said quietly. "The most lethal warship ever built by human hands. Its hull is made of experimental metamaterials that absorb rather than reflect energy. Its propulsion system leaves no ion trail, and its weapons—" He trailed off, letting Alexis take in the sight of the massive vessel. Its weapons were designed by studying the remains of every alien craft that crashed on Earth over the past century, technologies we kept hidden even from the Centauri. A woman in a gray uniform approached them, her stride purposeful. "Admiral," she greeted Howard with a nod. "The final systems checks are complete. The Retribution is ready for deployment." "Commander, Reeves, meet Captain Kathleen Mercer," Howard said. "The commander of humanity's vengeance." Captain Mercer's face was lean and angular, her eyes sharp and assessing as she examined Alexis. "Commander," she acknowledged, "welcome to the end of Earth's pretense of technological inferiority." Alexis looked back at the dark ship below. "What happens now?" Howard's voice was grim. "Now we show the Arcturus Dominion the mistake they made when they destroyed our allies. They believe they eliminated our shield in this sector." His eyes narrowed slightly. "They don't realize they've merely removed our last reason for restraint." Chief Engineer Samantha Ellis wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked inside a narrow access tunnel, deep within the USS Retribution. Her dark skin glistened in the dim blue light as she made final adjustments to the ship's quantum matrix. For 6 days straight, she had slept only in short naps, pushing herself and her engineering team to prepare the vessel for combat. "Sam, are you still in there?" Dr. Vincent Ortega's voice echoed through the tunnel. The neural systems specialist had been working alongside her since the Nemesis protocol was activated. "Almost done," she called back, tightening one last connection before sliding out of the access tunnel. She stood up, stretching her back. "The power distribution system is stable. How's the neural interface coming along?" Vincent's tired eyes brightened slightly. "Final synchronization is complete. The quantum entanglement network is stable across all systems." They walked together through the ship's corridors. Unlike the bright, well-lit passages of standard Earth vessels, the Retribution's interior was dim, with soft blue lighting that reduced eye strain during long missions. The ship had been designed for extended stealth operations, with every detail planned for maximum efficiency and minimal detection. "Do you think it will work?" Vincent asked quietly, making sure none of the other crew members could hear. "The ship, I mean. We've never actually tested the full weapons array against a real target." Samantha frowned slightly. "The simulations were all successful. Beyond that," she shrugged, "I guess we'll find out soon enough." They entered the command center, a circular room dominated by a three-dimensional tactical display. Around the edges, crew members worked at various stations, their faces illuminated by their screens. Captain Kathleen Mercer stood in the center, reviewing data with Commander Alexis Reeves, who had just arrived from Lunar Station Alpha. "Chief Engineer," Mercer called, noticing them enter. "Status report." Samantha straightened her posture. "All systems are operational, Captain. Power distribution is balanced and stable. The ship is ready. Though I still have concerns about the autonomous targeting systems," Vincent added. "The quantum processing cores are functioning properly, but they've never been tested in actual combat conditions." Mercer nodded, her expression neutral. "Noted. But we've run out of options and time." She turned to the tactical display, which showed the last known position of the Arcturus Dominion fleet. "The Dominion believes they've eliminated our only shield in this sector. They don't realize they've merely removed our last reason for restraint." She turned to address the command center crew, her voice clear and firm. "This isn't just a warship. It's a new kind of weapon altogether. Everything about the Retribution exists outside normal chain of command. We represent humanity's darkest contingency, a vessel built not for exploration or conventional warfare, but for asymmetric combat against technologically superior enemies." Commander Reeves studied the ship schematics on a nearby screen. "I've never seen technology like this. How did we develop it?" "Carefully," Samantha replied. "And in secret. The hull contains experimental metamaterials that absorb rather than reflect energy. The propulsion system leaves no ion trail. But the weapons—" She glanced at Captain Mercer, who nodded permission to continue. "The weapons were designed by studying the remains of every alien craft that crashed on Earth over the past century. Technology we kept hidden, even from our allies," Mercer added, her voice softening slightly. "The Centauri were good friends to Earth. They welcomed us into the galactic community when others wanted us quarantined, but they wouldn't have understood our need to prepare for this day. The massive hangar doors began to open, revealing the star-filled void beyond. The dock's artificial gravity kept the atmosphere in, while a shimmering force field prevented depressurization. Through the opening, they could see distant stars and the scattered lights of human outposts throughout the asteroid belt. All personnel prepare for departure," Mercer announced over the ship-wide communication system. She turned to her small, hand-picked crew. "The Centauri were our friends. Today we honor their memory by ensuring the Dominion never destroys another civilization." As the crew took their positions, Mercer sat in the command chair at the center of the bridge. Alexis took the first officer's position beside her. "Navigation," Mercer called. "Set course for the Centauri system. Maximum stealth configuration." Lieutenant Ryan Foster, the ship's pilot, worked his controls with smooth precision. "Course laid in, Captain. Stealth systems active. Weapons status?" Mercer asked. Lieutenant Daniel Wright, a young officer with intense focus, checked his readouts. "All offensive systems online and ready. Molecular disassemblers at full charge, Phantom missiles loaded." "Defensive systems?" Mercer continued. "Phase shields at maximum capacity," responded Security Chief Maria Diaz. "Quantum displacement field generators standing by." Mercer looked around at her crew, taking a moment to make eye contact with each of them. These weren't ordinary military personnel. Each had been selected for their exceptional abilities, unconventional thinking, and absolute discretion. For years they had worked in secret, knowing they were preparing for a day they hoped would never come. "We don't know exactly what we'll find when we reach Centauri space," Mercer said. "Our long-range scans indicate a large Dominion fleet is still in the area, likely harvesting resources from the planetary debris. Our mission is clear: disable or destroy the Arcturus fleet, gather any intelligence we can about their capabilities and intentions, and search for any Centauri survivors." She stood walking to the tactical display. The Retribution was designed to be more than just a match for Dominion technology. It was designed to terrify them, to show them that humanity is not the primitive species they believe us to be. The ship began to move silently out of the hangar, its dark hull almost invisible against the backdrop of space. Unlike conventional engine systems, The Retribution's propulsion left no visible trail, no energy signature that could be detected by standard sensors. "Dr. Ortega," Mercer called. "Activate the neural interface." Vincent moved to his station and initiated the sequence. A soft hum filled the bridge as the ship's quantum processors connected directly with the crew's neural implants, allowing for instantaneous response times and silent communication during combat situations. A faint shiver ran through the ship as the phase drive engaged. Stars outside the viewports blurred slightly as the vessel accelerated, moving faster than should have been possible according to the physics equations Earth had shared with its galactic allies. In the engine room, Samantha monitored the power levels, watching as the experimental drive performed exactly as designed. The technology had been reverse-engineered from a crashed Dominion scout ship found in the Arctic 30 years earlier, a discovery that had never been reported to the galactic community. "Phase drive functioning at optimal levels," she reported, through the neural link. "We'll reach Centauri space in approximately 47 hours. On the bridge, Captain Mercer's expression remained calm, but her eyes held a cold determination. The Dominion had made a fatal error. They had judged Earth by its public face, the diplomatic, cooperative partner to the Centauri. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. "The Centauri showed us friendship," she said quietly. "We will show them justice." Supreme Commander Vexroth stood on the bridge of the Dominion flagship, his forearms folded across his armored chest. Through the large viewing window, he watched as his ships moved through what remained of Centauri Prime. Where once a beautiful, blue-green planet had been, now only floating rocks and dust existed. His scaled skin reflected the dim red lighting of the Dominion vessel, as he chittered with satisfaction. "Begin resource collection," he ordered, his voice a harsh clicking sound, translated by the ship's computers. "I want every piece of useful material harvested before we move on." His executive officer, Subcommander Kral, approached with a data tablet. "The operation was a complete success, Supreme Commander. No Centauri warships escaped. We have detected some small civilian vessels fleeing the outer colonies, but they pose no threat." "Hunt them down anyway," Vexroth said. "No witnesses. The other species must learn what happens when they ally themselves with humans." Kral bowed slightly. "As you command. Our intelligence indicates the humans have retreated behind their defensive line at Jupiter. Their primitive warships are gathering there." Vexroth made the chittering sound again, the Dominion equivalent of laughter. "The humans were nothing without Centauri protection. Their technology is centuries behind ours. We will harvest their worlds next." Across the bridge, warning indicators suddenly flared red. A junior officer called out in alarm. "Energy spike detected. Unknown configuration." Before Vexroth could respond, the rear view screen showed one of his support cruisers simply coming apart. There was no explosion, no fire. The vessel just separated into pieces as though its molecular bonds had been selectively cut. "Battle stations!" Vexroth shouted. "Full sensor sweep!" Kral rushed to the sensor station. "Supreme Commander, sensors detect nothing. There are no ships in range besides our own fleet." "Impossible," Vexroth snarled. "Something destroyed that cruiser." Another alarm sounded. On the view screen, a second Dominion vessel began to disintegrate, this time closer to the flagship. "It's impossible," whispered Kral. "There's nothing there." Captain Mercer sat calmly in her command chair aboard the USS Retribution. Through the neural interface, she could feel the ship as though it were an extension of her own body. The tactical display showed the positions of every Dominion vessel, highlighted in red against the darkness of space. "Phase cloak functioning perfectly," Lieutenant Wright reported from the weapons station. "They have no idea we're here." Commander Reeves watched in amazement as the Retribution moved through the Dominion fleet completely undetected. The ship's advanced technology kept it microseconds out of phase with normal space, visible only in the brief moment it attacked. "Target their next support vessel," Mercer ordered. "Let's see how they respond to losing another ship." Wright implemented the targeting solution through his neural link. Molecular disassemblers locked on target, firing. From the outside, nothing would be visible. No energy beam, No torpedo. The Retribution's primary weapons worked by generating a field that simply canceled the molecular bonds holding a target together, causing it to fall apart with no explosion or debris. On the tactical display, they watched as another Dominion ship broke into pieces. "They're beginning to panic," Security Chief Diaz noted, monitoring enemy communications. "Their commanders are ordering evasive maneuvers, but they don't know what to evade." Mercer nodded. "Now for Phase 2. Target their flagship's propulsion systems. Let's make sure Commander Vexroth delivers our message personally." Lieutenant Wright adjusted the targeting parameters. Molecular disassemblers locked on their engine section. Firing. On the Dominion flagship, chaos erupted as the massive vessel shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Engine systems are failing," an officer reported frantically. "The molecular bonds in the drive core are breaking." "Down!" Vexroth gripped his command station as the ship lurched. "How is this possible? What weapon could do this?" Suddenly, all bridge systems went dark. When emergency power activated seconds later, a message appeared on every screen. It was written in the Dominion language, but the voice that came through the speakers was human. "Arcturus Dominion vessel, this is Captain Kathleen Mercer of the Earth warship Retribution. You are now disabled and at our mercy." Vexroth stared at the screen in disbelief. "Open a channel," he ordered. When the communication system activated, he spoke with all the authority he could muster. "This is Supreme Commander Vexroth of the Arcturus Dominion. Identify yourself properly, human. What trickery is this?" The screens flickered, and the image of a human female appeared. She wore a simple gray uniform with no visible rank or insignia. "This is no trick, Commander Vexroth. You destroyed our allies, believing Earth to be defenseless without Centauri protection." "You were wrong," Vexroth snarled. "If you had such weapons, why did the Centauri fight our battles for you? Why hide behind them for decades?" "Because we are not conquerors," Mercer replied coldly. "We held back our true capabilities because we chose peace. The Centauri allowed us that choice, and you took it away." Around the flagship, the remaining Dominion fleet was being systematically disabled. Ship after ship lost power or broke apart in specific controlled ways. No vessels were completely destroyed, but none remained capable of fighting or fleeing. On the Retribution's bridge, Mercer continued the conversation with Vexroth while watching the tactical display. "All Dominion vessels neutralized, Captain," Wright reported. "We used minimal energy expenditure as ordered." Mercer nodded, keeping her eyes on the alien commander's image. "Supreme Commander Vexroth, your fleet has been neutralized. You are being left with minimal life support and communication capabilities. A message is being transmitted to your homeworld along with proof of what happened here." On screen, Vexroth's alien features showed a mix of rage and fear. "What is your demand, human?" "You are going to be escorted to Earth space by the Retribution. Your government will send representatives to negotiate terms. Be grateful that humans are not like the Dominion. We could have done to your homeworld what you did to the Centauri." Commander Reeves stepped forward. "Captain, we're detecting weak life signs from one of the larger debris fields. There may be Centauri survivors." Mercer's expression softened slightly. "Prepare rescue teams. Priority 1 is looking for survivors." She turned back to the screen showing Vexroth. "Your defeat here today was accomplished by a single Earth vessel, Supreme Commander. One ship that you never detected until it was too late. Consider what that means for your Empire's future if you choose to continue this aggression." The alien. Commander's features hardened. "The Dominion does not surrender." "This isn't a request for surrender," Mercer replied. "This is notification of a new reality. Earth has remained peaceful by choice, not necessity. You removed our reason for restraint. The consequences of that decision are only beginning." She signaled Lieutenant Wright to cut the transmission. The screen went dark. "Captain," Dr. Ortega called from his station. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings from the largest concentration of planetary debris. It appears to be a stasis field." Mercer turned quickly. On screen, the main display showed a large collection of planetary fragments. Deep scans revealed a bubble of energy surrounding what appeared to be intact structures. It's a Centauri emergency shelter, Reeves said, wonder in her voice. They managed to activate planetary shields around at least one city before the planet broke apart. For the first time since the mission began, Captain Mercer smiled. Prepare first contact protocols. Let's bring them home. As rescue teams prepared to investigate the stasis field, Mercer looked at the disabled Dominion flagship on the tactical display. The message they had delivered today would echo across the galaxy. Earth was not the technological primitive others had assumed. They had been hiding their true capabilities, waiting and watching, and now everyone would know the truth. Admiral Zachary Powell stood tall before the United Nations Security Council, his decorated uniform a stark contrast to the simple civilian clothes of the gathered representatives. The large chamber was filled to capacity, with delegates from every nation on Earth present for this historic briefing. Screens on the walls showed the faces of leaders who could not attend in person. The Dominion fleet has been neutralized, Powell announced, his deep voice carrying throughout the room. All hostile vessels have been rendered non-functional but intact. Captain Mercer reports minimal energy expenditure and 0 casualties aboard the Retribution. The chamber erupted in murmurs. For decades, the Arcturus Dominion had been considered unstoppable, a technological and military power that had conquered 3 sectors in rapid succession. Many on Earth had feared they would be next after the destruction of the Centauri. The Secretary General, a tall woman with silver hair, leaned forward at the central table. "And what of our losses, Admiral?" Powell's expression remained composed. "None, Madam Secretary. The Retribution completed its mission without taking any damage. The Dominion fleet never even detected our ship until it was too late." More murmurs filled the room, this time with a mix of disbelief and relief. "And the Dominion response?" asked the Secretary General. Powell allowed himself a small smile. "Their Supreme Commander has been brought to the diplomatic station at Europa. He's eager to negotiate." The Chinese representative stood. "Admiral, for years we were told that Earth needed Centauri protection because our technology was inferior to the Dominion. Now you tell us one ship defeated their entire fleet? How is this possible?" Powell nodded to an aide who distributed digital tablets to the council members. "What you're receiving is a now declassified summary of Project Harbinger. 15 years ago, Earth governments pooled resources to develop technologies that even our Centauri allies didn't know we possessed. Images appeared on the main screen showing the Retribution and technical schematics of its advanced systems. The Retribution is the first of 4 planned vessels incorporating technologies reverse-engineered from various alien craft that have crashed on Earth over the past century," Powell continued. "We kept these developments secret from everyone, including the Centauri, to maintain strategic advantage in case of exactly this kind of situation." The Russian representative frowned. "We lied to our allies?" "We maintained operational security," Powell corrected firmly. "The Centauri were peaceful by nature. They would not have approved of some of our weapons research. But their destruction has proven that sometimes peace must be protected by strength." In the back of the chamber, defense analyst Lisa Harrington watched the proceedings with mixed emotions. She had been one of the original planners of Project Harbinger, fighting for years to maintain its funding against those who thought the Centauri alliance was protection enough. Now her foresight had been vindicated, but at a terrible cost. Her assistant handed her a message. "Looks like the Dominion is ready to talk," he whispered. Lisa nodded. "Let's hope they're ready to listen too." In the sterile conference room of Europa Station, Supreme Commander Vexroth sat across from the human delegation. His once proud posture was diminished, his scaled skin pale from stress. 2 human guards stood at the door, though they were hardly necessary. The Dominion commander had no weapons and nowhere to go. Ambassador Julia Reed led the Earth delegation, her calm demeanor masking the anger she felt toward the being responsible for billions of deaths. Beside her sat Captain Mercer, still in her simple gray uniform, and Commander Reeves, who had requested to be present. "This meeting will establish preliminary terms before your government's full delegation arrives," Reed began, her voice cool and professional. "I should make it clear that these terms are non-negotiable. Vexroth's upper arms twitched, a sign of agitation in his species. Impossible, he said, not for the first time since his capture. Your species is primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. This must be some Centauri trick. Reed didn't react to the provocation. A common misconception about humans, Commander. We don't develop technology like other species. Incrementally, logically, openly. Our advancements come in desperate leaps, born from our darkest moments, and we keep our most terrible creations hidden. She slid a data tablet across the table. These are our terms. The Dominion will withdraw from all conquered territories, pay reparations to affected worlds, and submit to monitoring by a multi-species coalition. Vexroth scanned the document, his alien eyes widening. These demands would cripple the Dominion. They would restore justice, Mercer said, speaking for the first time. And they are generous considering what you did to the Centauri. The alien commander's gaze shifted to her. And if we refuse? The retribution demonstrated a fraction of its capabilities against your fleet, Reed replied calmly. There are 3 more ships of its class nearing completion, and they've been assigned to patrol the borders of formerly Dominion-controlled space. Reed gestured to a screen on the wall, which displayed images of 3 vessels under construction, in massive hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The Nemesis, the Reckoning, and the Consequence, each incorporating the same technologies as the Retribution, but with different specialized capabilities. Your government has 72 hours to respond, Reed continued. During that time, the Retribution will escort the remains of your fleet back to your territory as a show of good faith. Vexroth looked at the humans with new understanding in his alien eyes. For generations, the Dominion had conquered through fear, believing themselves technologically superior to all other species. Now they faced a race that had hidden its true capabilities, waiting and watching from the shadows. I will convey your terms, he said finally. Back aboard the Retribution, Samantha Ellis worked with Centauri engineers to help stabilize the rescue pods that had been recovered from the debris field. Over 8,000 survivors had been found, a tiny fraction of the billions lost, but more than anyone had hoped for. The stasis technology saved them, a Centauri engineer named Tellin explained as they repaired a damaged life support system. Our emergency protocols activated planetary shields around several population centers when the attack began. Most failed when the planet broke apart, but this one held. Samantha nodded, focused on her work. We're taking you to Earth. Your people will be welcome there. Tellin's large eyes studied her curiously. The ship that rescued us, we have never seen such technology. Not even in Dominion vessels. Samantha paused, considering her words carefully. Earth kept some secrets, even from friends. We hoped we'd never need to use them. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Ortega monitored the condition of injured Centauri civilians. Commander Reeves had returned from the negotiation and now stood beside him, watching the medical staff work. How are they doing? She asked. Physically, they'll recover, Ortega replied. Mentally, they just witnessed the destruction of their homeworld. That kind of trauma doesn't heal easily. Reeves nodded solemnly. At least they'll have justice. On the bridge, Captain Mercer received the latest reports from Earth. The news of the Retribution's success had spread rapidly throughout human territories, changing humanity's position in galactic affairs overnight. No longer would Earth be seen as the junior partner in its alliances, dependent on others for protection. Captain, Lieutenant Wright called from his station. We've received transmission from Admiral Powell. The Dominion High Command has agreed to open formal negotiations. Mercer acknowledged the report with a nod. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. As the Retribution prepared to return home with the Centauri survivors, Mercer watched the tactical display showing the remnants of the Dominion fleet being escorted to their border. The message they had delivered would echo across the galaxy. Earth was no longer hiding, and the stars would never look the same again. 1 year after the Centauri massacre, Commander Alexis Reeves stood aboard the observation deck of the rebuilt Centauri diplomatic station. Through the large viewport, she could see ships from 27 different species in orbit around the station. Representatives from all these worlds had gathered for the signing of the Galactic Concord, a new defensive alliance with Earth at its center. The station itself was a marvel of combined technology. Earth engineers had worked alongside surviving Centauri architects to create a structure that honored their destroyed homeworld, while incorporating new defensive systems that would prevent such a tragedy from happening again. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Admiral Howard said, joining her at the viewport. His hair had turned completely gray over the past year, but he stood as tall as ever. "Yes, sir," Alexis replied. "I never imagined seeing so many species gathered peacefully in one place." Howard nodded. They never saw it coming. The Dominion spent centuries conquering through fear, never understanding that fear is what humans transform into strength. Captain Mercer entered the observation deck, no longer wearing the gray uniform of Project Harbinger. Today, she wore the formal dress uniform of Earth Fleet, her rank and decorations visible for the first time since she had taken command of the Retribution. "The final delegates have arrived," she informed them. "The signing ceremony begins in 30 minutes. Howard turned to face her. "How does it feel to be back in standard uniform, Captain?" Mercer smiled slightly. "Strange, but appropriate. The Harbinger Protocol has been officially declassified. Our allies deserve to know what protects them." On screens throughout the station, images were displayed of the Retribution and its sister ships, the Nemesis, the Reckoning, and the Consequence. All 4 vessels were now openly patrolling the borders of Allied space, no longer hidden in secret bases. Their presence had already prevented 3 border conflicts as former aggressive species reconsidered their expansionist plans. "Have we become what we fought against?" Alexis asked quietly. "Enforcing peace through superior firepower?" Howard shook his head. "The difference is choice. We could have destroyed the Dominion, annexed their territories, taken their resources. Instead, we chose restraint." Mercer nodded in agreement. "The Retribution wasn't built just to fight wars, but to prevent them. The most lethal warship is the one you never have to use twice." They walked together toward the main conference hall where the ceremony would take place. The corridors were filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, some with multiple limbs, like the Dominion, others with physical forms barely recognizable as life to human eyes, yet all moved with a common purpose today. In the center of the conference hall stood a massive table, made from a single piece of salvaged Centauri crystal. The material glowed with soft blue light, illuminating the faces of those gathered around. And at the head of the table sat Tellen, now the lead representative of the surviving Centauri people. "Commander Reeves," he greeted Alexis warmly. "It is good to see you again." "And you, Representative Tellen," she replied. "How are your people settling on New Centauri?" The planet now called New Centauri had been a joint project between Earth and the survivors. Terraforming technology had transformed a previously uninhabitable world into a new home for the remaining Centauri population. "We are adapting," Tellen said, his large eyes reflecting the crystal's light. "It will never be the same as our homeworld, but for the first time since the attack, there is hope among my people." The Earth delegates took their places at the table as ambassadors from all the represented worlds found their seats. Even a small Dominion delegation was present, though they sat far from the center, their once proud posture now humble. "Ambassador," Reed called the gathering to order. "Distinguished representatives, today we formalize what many thought impossible, a mutual defense agreement that spans 27 worlds and 16 star systems." She gestured to the document displayed in holographic form above the crystal table. "The Galactic Concord establishes shared technology development, open trade routes, and mutual protection. At its heart is a simple principle: an attack on one signatory is an attack on all." The Galactic Concord was much more than a military alliance. It included provisions for cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and economic integration. But everyone present knew that its foundation was the revealed might of Earth's secret fleet. As the signing process began, Alexis found herself standing next to Samantha Ellis, who had been promoted to fleet engineer after her work on the Retribution. "Did you ever think your engines would change galactic politics?" Alexis asked quietly. Samantha smiled. "I just built the ship. You helped decide how to use it." Across the room, Dr. Ortega was deep in conversation with scientists from 3 different worlds, explaining aspects of human neural interface technology that could be shared under the new agreement. When all signatures had been recorded, some written in ink, others in light, and some in substances humans had no words for, Ambassador Reed raised a glass in the Earth tradition of a toast. "To peace," she said simply. "To peace," the gathered representatives echoed in dozens of languages, the station's translation systems creating a harmonious chorus. Later, as the formal reception continued in the main hall, Alexis found herself alone on a small balcony overlooking the vastness of space. In the distance, she could see the Retribution on patrol, its once hidden form now visible as it moved against the backdrop of stars. Captain Mercer joined her, 2 glasses in hand. She offered one to Alexis. "To the Centauri," Mercer said quietly. "Our friends who never knew our secrets." Alexis accepted the glass. "Do you think they would have understood if we had told them about the Retribution before the attack?" Mercer considered the question. The Centauri believed in peace through friendship and mutual benefit. They might not have approved of our methods, but I think they would have understood our reasons. And now the galaxy knows what humans are capable of when provoked, Alexis said, looking out at the stars. "That's the point," Mercer replied. "Earth has revealed itself not as the technological primitive others had assumed, but as something far more dangerous, a species that hides its true capabilities until threatened, that builds its greatest weapons in secret, and that values its friends enough to unveil those secrets in their defense." Admiral Howard appeared at the entrance to the balcony. "They're asking for you both inside." The Centauri representatives wished to present something. They returned to the main hall where Tellin stood with a group of Centauri elders. In their hands was a small crystal sculpture, a miniature replica of the destroyed Centauri homeworld. "To honor those who avenged our people," Tellin said, presenting the sculpture to Captain Mercer, "and to remind us all of the price of aggression." As Mercer accepted the gift, Alexis realized that Earth's place in the galaxy had forever changed. The message to all worlds was clear. Destroy our allies at your peril, for Earth's mercy extends exactly as far as its friendships. "To peace, then," Howard said, raising his glass. "To peace," Alexis and Mercer echoed, "through readiness for war."